Good morning and welcome everyone to the Charlie 1 webinar. My name is Louise Biddle, and as you can tell from the accent, I am based in Australia and work for the Charlie 1 team. The webinar today aims to give you an introduction to digital marketing careers. The panel consists of military wives and marketing experts who work in the industry currently. They'll be giving you an insight into the many career pathways that are open to you, sharing their stories of retraining and upskilling, and giving you ideas about how to get started. The webinar will be recorded and there will be a question and answer session at the end of the panel discussion. So feel free to type your questions into the chat box as we go, and we'll come back to them towards the end of the webinar. I'm going to hand off to Meredith Grant now to start us off.
Thanks, Louise, and a huge thank you to Louise because she is dialing in and it's the evening for her in Australia, but she is a massive part of our team, so it's great that she's been able to join us. And thank you to everyone for joining our webinar today. So I'm just going to introduce myself first. So I'm a military wife, but my career started off after uni. I went into journalism, so I did a postgraduate diploma sponsored by ITV News and finished my diploma and went straight into their Gray's Inn Road studios as a junior producer, which was amazing. Absolutely loved it. I think it was the second week we had the London bombings and I was on an early shift, so I was one of the few people that was able to run around London and bring in footage and cover those events as they unfolded, which was a huge baptism of fire. I then went over to Sky News and worked on their news desk, and all the time I was a reservist. I was happily kind of living my London life, single, doing the job that I'd always dreamed of doing. And I got a phone call one day asking me if I wanted to go out to Iraq and be a combat camera team leader. And of course, as a young 20-something, I jumped at the opportunity. It was in my head, it was my chance to do a bit of kind of, well, the closest I'd ever get to war correspondence, if I'm honest. So I told Sky I'd be off for a 6-month tour, and they were happy. They said they'd keep my job open, which they did, and I went off and did that tour. But while I was there, I shared a room with an extremely inspiring young female officer who was an Arabic linguist. And having spent that time with her, I decided that I'm not sure I wanted to go back to London and work in the newsroom. So she suggested that I went down the Arabic language route. So I applied and got onto a course to learn Arabic. So that started a catalogue of events, which meant I went back out to Iraq. And then following that, I came back and then got mobilised again to do another communications job in Afghanistan, which gave me huge experience of media and comms beyond the journalism training that I'd done. Of course, during that time, I fell into the massive cliche of meeting an army guy and ending up getting married. So after we got married, I thought, I'm going to go back to my journalism career, but I found myself in deepest, darkest North Devon, about an hour and a half away from the nearest TV studio. And so I quickly realised that the life that I had needed to change if I wanted to do what I still loved. And so that's how Charlie 1 came about. I started off freelance and then built up the business, which I'll talk about in the next section. So we've been married 13 years, and in those 13 years, we've moved 10 times. So we've been really fortunate to live in places like Nepal, Australia, Kenya, Texas, and all the time I've been able to use my PR skills, my comm skills, and the digital marketing skills every time we've moved. So I've been fortunate enough to not be out of work. So although my background training was journalism, over the years, I've done a few more courses in digital marketing comms. And the latest one I did probably 2 years ago was a 6-month Google course called We Are Squared, which kind of brought me massively up to speed. But we're always learning and we're always trying to add to that skill set because things are changing so rapidly. And the reason we've put this webinar together is because digital marketing, it really is a great career to look at if you're a military partner, because it can move anywhere. As long as you can work to, you know, different time zones and join meetings, you know, which may be late at night or early in the morning, then it's a really good fit for the military life. So a bit about the company. So as I said, I started off freelance and set up a limited company in 2012. So it's actually our 10-year anniversary this year. We were mostly looking at working with defence and security companies, and those contacts came from people that I'd worked with in the military who had left and then needed a bit of support, whether that was comms or social media, and basically started building up the accounts that way. As the years have gone by, it's just got a bit too big, so we started growing the business, and that's why Caroline, Claire, Laurel, Louise, Belle, who's not on this call at the moment, Rebecca, who you'll see in the video later, that's why we built it out in that way. So we've all trained, we all work on either the B2B or B2C accounts. And as part of the company's growth, we've signed up to the Armed Forces Covenant. So we received the Bronze Award just before Christmas. And we're continuing to reinvest in the company, looking at platforms which you may have heard of if you've worked in digital marketing or comms before, like Meltwater, HubSpot or SEMrush, but we'll touch on these again as we go through the slide deck. So what is digital marketing? First of all, so it basically touches all our lives all the time. We're all influenced by digital marketing. So anyone that is selling you something, so from a cottage industry, somebody that is making arts and crafts, all the way up to Coca-Cola, Mars, the big companies, they're all using digital marketing to try and sell to you, to influence your buyer journey. So they're trying to touch you when you're thinking about what your need might be or your want is, then they're trying to influence you towards their product and then actually convert you to the sale. So it can include absolutely everything online, but it also includes text messages and communication through Messenger and advertising. So it can be organic or it can be paid. So why is it a great fit for military partners to look at this career, this industry? So as I said before, you can work from anywhere in the world, and as long as you've got internet and a computer, you can plug in. So when we lived in Kenya, we were in Nanyuki, which is about 4 hours north of Nairobi, which you'd think is pretty remote, but their signal there was better than I had it in North Devon. It was absolutely brilliant. So that's one bonus, where if you get posted, you can take it with you. Flexible hours. I've got 4 children under 9. I had to think about that then. And so for me, I made the choice that I wanted to keep working because I was worried that I'd lose my skills. I wouldn't be able to get a job if I took too much leave. And so that's not ideal for everyone. That's not what everyone wants. Some people do want to take that extended maternity leave, spend the time with the children while they're young. And whatever works for you is absolutely perfect. But when you're ready to get back into work, digital marketing is super flexible. So as long as you get the work done and you report to your clients, you can really work whatever hours suit you. So frequently our team will be working at night sometimes, or early in the morning or during the day, but we just get it done and we just fit it around whatever else is going on in our lives. The other bonuses of digital marketing is that to train in this career, you don't need to invest in the training yourself. There are so many free courses to access that I would argue the course that I paid for myself to do the Google course, the Squared Online course, 2 years on, you don't need to pay for that level of course because the training is all out there, because the companies want you to use their platform. So they will train you to quite a high level for free, and it's all virtual in your own time. And again, we'll touch on that later in this presentation. The other reason why you should consider this career is that it is a huge growth sector. So when you're looking at tech companies, basically all businesses, if they're not online, if they're not working digitally, then they're going to lose profit, because digital marketing, the digital space, means that even new entrants to the market can be highly competitive if they've got a good digital marketing strategy. And if you upskill in this area, you'll always be able to find work. The industry is evolving rapidly, and more chief marketing officers need people doing SEO, doing TikTok management, doing email marketing to support the overall strategy. So however much you want to get involved, whether you want to work towards becoming a CMO, a chief marketing officer, or whether you just want to dip your foot in a few hours a day doing SEO, there's a role for you. And that's what we're going to go into. So why are companies going digital, and why is it so important? When we look at traditional advertising like newspapers or magazines, companies used to spend a huge amount of money on placing, full page ads or half page ads in physical publications, but they are incredibly expensive because you have to pay a designer, you have to pay print costs, and also they don't offer much flexibility, because once you've submitted your ad, there's still going to be that time lag between submitting it and printing. And so a lot in the world can change in the time before your ad goes to print. And also, and this is probably the most significant reason why companies are hugely investing in digital, is because it's really difficult to quantify. How can you tell how many people have actually read an article or read an advert in a newspaper and then taken action off the back of it? So some companies are getting around this by putting QR codes in the imagery, which does give you some tracking capability, but you can't really see what lead generation you're getting from print or radio ads. What it is good for, though, is if you're running a huge campaign, it's really good for brand awareness. If you're just flooding the market and you're advertising in newspapers, on buses, on tubes, flyers through doors, it's brilliant for mass brand awareness. But most companies now want to get more bang for their buck, and you get more bang for your buck by using digital channels. And so the bang for your buck comes from marketing being data driven. So when you're working with a client, they want to know that everything that you're doing, so the hours that you're billing for them, are having an impact or are having an effect. And that's why we look very much at campaigns that are driven by analytics and data. So in this slide, you can see lots of different elements from the marketing mix coming together. So we'll touch on these in more detail, but organic search, email marketing, paid social, organic social. And you can see from the chart which is having the most impact. And why this data is important is because we can then say, hey, look, so the organic search is working really well at bringing people into the site. So we'll keep doing that. We'll keep investing in content. Email marketing is growing. So perhaps we should up the regularity of those emails going out, because they are bringing people in, they're then converting people. And paid social is bringing in clients who convert into sales. And so how we do digital marketing is using all of this data and then working with the sales or the commercial team to see what that impact is. So how many people are then coming in through content and then spending their money. And then you can really quickly test and adjust those campaigns to make sure people are getting return on investment. So a lot of this data, getting your head around it, it can be quite daunting, but actually it's quite simple if you've got the right processes and the right platforms in place. So for example, Google Analytics is a great platform to understand data. If you have a website, you can look at it and you'll get where people have come from, their geography, what language they speak, what device they're using, whether they're using Apple or Android. You can see their age, you can see their gender, you can see what pages they're looking at, how long they're spending on the pages. And from all of that data, you can hypothesize about what their need is or what you need to change or test and adjust to make the sale happen. And this is all part of the buyer journey. So I've used hay fever example here, as you can probably tell I'm a bit congested because we live on Salisbury Plain at the moment, so I'm bombarded by pollen on all fronts. But when we talk about the buyer journey, first of all, we're talking about the awareness stage. So this is when someone is thinking about what the problem is. There's something that they need to fix, and they need to start doing some research. So for someone in the first awareness stage, it might be Googling the symptoms, runny eyes, blocked up nose, sinuses. And so at that level, when we're looking at data, you can look at keywords, you can look at SEO. And if, for example, you are selling an alternative hay fever medicine, or you are selling products relating to allergies, you could start thinking about building out content that is based on keywords around a symptom search, for example. So you're really understanding your buyer at the first instance. So what is their potential problem? Building out the content full of keywords that they could be searching. So the next stage is the consideration stage. So this is when they're actually going online. They know that their symptoms are getting so bad, they've got to find a solution. What is the best solution for them? And so at this stage, from a digital marketing point of view, you've got the keywords, you know what they're searching for because you've interrogated that back end information through SEO, through platforms like SEMrush. And then you need to start targeting them. So you can do targeted ads. So for example, if you are reading the Times or the Daily Mail and you see an ad pop up and it's for hay fever medicine, and yesterday you were searching hay fever symptoms, that is an example of native advertising. So that's people recognizing that you've searched specific terms, it's gathered your data, the algorithm is then fed into the native ads, and it's saying this person is a good marketing qualified lead. So this is someone your ad should target to get them to make a sale. And so at that stage, that consideration stage, you are using data to influence them, to try and push them towards make a decision to get on your website or your Shopify or whatever platform it is you're using to sell, and get them to give you their money. So when you're at the decision stage, this is when they're deciding between brands. So are they going to go down the route of buying from Boots online? Are they going to try an alternative remedy, which might be a small business that's starting up or something new? And so at that stage, you're trying to be clever about bringing them into you. So that could have been built up by content, lots and lots of blog content or video testimonials, or social media posts that are talking about 5 ways to battle hay fever, for example, a downloadable about top tips to battle hay fever or allergies. And so at that stage, it's really about lead generation. You want them to give you your data so you can bring them in, absolutely bring them into the fold and get them to make that purchase. So basically what I'm trying to explain from the buyer journey is that it's how data is used within marketing to shape that journey and shape your audience to make a commitment to buy. And this data is collected. So aside from the hay fever example, we are giving people data all the time, whether it is using our club card at Tesco's, they're looking at what we're buying, when we're shopping, how frequently we go, whatever we're typing into search, that is all being collected via our IP, unless you've got your privacy settings very high, which the majority of people don't. Everything you do online is being tracked. How long you spend looking at a Facebook post. If you are getting emails that are targeted from Google, sometimes you'll see Google ads emails drop in. That's because of an action you've taken online. Whether you're tapping in with your credit card on TfL, on the tube or on the bus. So it's tracking everything. All of this data is coming together and being used by algorithms to build this picture of you as a buyer. And that data is then used to shape marketing decisions. So all these native ads platforms use this data to then tell marketeers how best to spend their budget. So that's just a brief overview of how the buyer journey works, and the use of data to influence the how you create your marketing plans for digital marketing. So within digital marketing, there are a huge amount of skills and careers open to you. So these are just a few of the ones that we brainstormed. And as you can see, there's everything there from chief marketing officer down to SEO, to social media marketeer, marketing sales. And the beauty of this is that there is a skill set here for everybody. So my background is mainly comms. So one of my strengths is writing. So I really enjoy writing blogs, press releases, anything that involves words, I really enjoy. And you'll meet Laurel in a few minutes, who is hugely creative. She's just got the eye for design. You'll meet Claire, who is very practical, very logical. Things just make sense to her. So she is absolutely brilliant at data and process. And you'll meet Caroline, who is fantastic at bringing everything together in that CMO role. And what's really important is just to have an idea of all these careers. And you may not know yet what suits you or what your kind of digital marketing calling is, but there is something for everyone. Whether you've got skills from a previous career or you want to upskill and change, you'll find something that fits you. So I'm now going to introduce the rest of the panel, so you can get an insight into their roles within digital marketing and what they specialize in. So first of all, I am going to introduce you to Claire Marks, who is going to talk about SEO and website technical support. Over to you, Claire.
Hi, thank you very much, Meredith. So I am Claire, and my background is I started off many years ago, and I did a degree in information communication management, and I also transferred it to a master's in 12th century history. The idea at the time was that I wanted to be a museum curator. I finished my degree and I met my husband, who is military, and I decided to follow his journey around, and I have lived in pretty much every part of the UK going. But because I moved around so much, and military bases tend to be in more rural locations, kind of the pick of the jobs wasn't really ideal, and I just seemed to naturally progress into PA type roles. My degree is a librarian's degree, and it's pretty much learning how to take masses of raw data and just building it into some sort of organized system. So systems include like tills that you go into a shop. That is basically just a software system, and it's the same for websites. If you looked into the back of a website, it would just be masses of raw data, and all it is it's just organized into a much more easier layout. So those PA type roles continued until I had my children, and I found it really hard to stay in permanent type office based roles. And so I took a couple of years out just while my children were very, very young. And then when I came back to work, kind of times had changed, and then COVID hit, and actually the way the working world is now is actually suiting me so much better. Everything seems to be more at home based, online. It means I can work around my kids. I don't have to worry about childcare. I'm at home, and my home is now kind of my office. Everything's there, everything's easy accessible. I can speak to clients over Zoom, and it just seems to have worked very well. I seem to have taken those skill sets that I've learned as a PA, and I've just found that my niche is being organized to the point of kind of just logically knowing where information is stored. So I'm very good at manipulating data. I'm very good at finding things on websites which people can't find. My logical brain just knows that I can nip in the back way and kind of find something that way. So next slide, please, Meredith. So what I do mostly in my day-to-day job is SEO and website kind of technical help. So SEO it stands for search engine optimization. And it's basically how do you take your website and push it out so that it gets as many views as possible. I do it through organic means. They'll talk about paid kind of advertising later, but I do it organically. So my work is kind of pushing through the rankings in a non-paid environment. If you've ever done a psychology degree or a psychology course or anything like that, you will heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's basically a pyramid scheme which they have basically processed the needs of a human being to survive. So everyone needs love, everyone likes love, but you can't have love unless you have your basic needs met. So water, food, shelter, things like that. So water, food, shelter is your bread and butter, so that will go at the bottom. Love, it's important, but it's not 100% required, so that would kind of go at the top. And what Moz.com have done is they've taken Maslow's hierarchy of needs and tweaked it for SEO to show the hierarchy of SEO needs. So just to run through it for you. So at the bottom, we have crawl accessibility. So this is just your basic content for your website. So your basic paragraph of words of what you're selling, what the website is about, things like that. So next up, we have compelling content. So what you are trying to do is you are trying to show your website that it answers your consumers' questions. The website just basically needs to explain exactly what you do, exactly what you sell, so that if someone has a question, it's there on your website to answer. Next, we have keyword optimization. So keywords is quite important. What you are trying to do is you're trying to attract those questions, the searches, and the search engines. Search engines are just basically, they're just robots. So what they are trying to do is just match the words in a person's question to your website. So when you think about keywords, you think about the products you sell, the area locations you are, where you can deliver to, the words that describe your business, that describe the products. You are just basically listing all the words to do with your company. And what you're going to do with those words is you're going to make sure that they're just filtered through throughout the whole website. And it just means the more keyword matches to a question that a consumer has, the more likely you are your website is to go up the ranking of the search engine. So next up, we have great user experience. If you are kind of older like me, you would remember search engines back in the day where you'd click to open a website and it would have so many graphics and it would just take so long to load up. The speed would be so low, like it would just take so long that you would close that website down and you would go find another one. So what you need to look at is you need to look at fast loading speeds of your website, ease of use, so it's easy to navigate around, and that it's compelling. It states exactly what you are doing, what you're selling right there and then, without having to scroll through multiple pages. So next up from there, we have share worthy content. So that basically means that how likely is that consumer to share your website? If it's something that they will share to other consumers or other people that they know would be interested in your products, would they share in Facebook groups or to their neighbors? It's basically just it's finding something on your website that you know would get shared or would be interesting to other consumers out there. Next, heading towards the top, we have title, URL, and descriptions. So this is to draw to get higher up into the rankings. So your title, your URL, and descriptions all need to be quite short, sharp, and to the point, and exactly what you are wanting to sell or to show. So if you were to take Charlie 1, for instance, you could have www charliecharlie1.co.uk, which is quite a long title. But if you wanted to make it easier for someone to search into it, you would put www.cc1.co.uk. It's just short and sharp, and it just means that more likely people are to remember the spelling the way that and just be able to type it quickly. Descriptions, again, just keep them short, sharp and punchy, and straight to the point. And then right at the top, we have snippet and schema markup. So this is all about the search engine results page. If you take Google, for instance, it's no longer just a straight list of websites. You have kind of paid advertising at the top. You also have maps. You have click to calls, which is people who have put their telephone numbers in. You've also got images, videos. All it's doing is Google is just displaying a variety of things that may answer your questions. So if you have videos on your websites or images that answer questions that you've labeled correctly, they will appear on the search engines. If people are looking for a local business, if you've got your business on a map in Google, that will pull through as well on a search listings. You're just trying to make it as easy as possible for the search engines to find your business. And that is basically SEO in a total nutshell. It's just, if you think of it as kind of like a game, you start at the bottom and you kind of working your way up to the next levels to ensure that you get more clicks, more high ratings, your ranking goes up, and that's pretty much it. So if we move on to the next slide, Meredith.
Yep.
These are kind of the areas to look for with website technical support. There is so many free courses out there, and there's so much to learn. But these are kind of the three areas that I would say are the most important. So the first one is WordPress, and according to Kinkster.com, 43% of all websites are built through WordPress. So if you are going to go into website design, or if you are going to look at people's digital websites, I would say go into WordPress, use all their free courses, get to grips with it, learn how to work it, manipulate it, to change things. That would really help you in a digital marketing environment. Also Google as well. So according to Statistica, 92.47% of all search engine usage is through Google, and that's google.com and google.co.uk. So if you want to learn about search engines, how to manipulate them, Google is kind of the main place that you should stop. You will learn things like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. They all manipulate Google's search engine results. So although people will say to you, oh, Facebook is dying off, and TikTok and this is all replacing it, but actually Facebook is still very considered very highly in Google. So you do really need a Facebook page to kind of get your business kind of higher up in Google. And lastly, just a bit of HTML coding. So when I first did my degree, these user-friendly platforms did not exist. So there was no Wix.com. There was, I think WordPress was around, but it was very, very small, very minimal. So all of these places that kind of you click a button and it does it for you didn't exist. So we had to learn HTML coding ourselves. And even though these user-friendly sites are all there and they're easy to use, sometimes with the nature of technology, it doesn't work how it should. And sometimes you'll move something and it doesn't move, and you get disgruntled, or you'll use a platform that's really confusing and it's really messy and you don't know where things are. I would say learn a little bit of HTML coding, just the basics, and it just means that sometimes you can actually nip in through the back door. You can find what you need to find in the coding, slightly change it, and move on and go on with your day. And like I said, there is 700 separate programming languages in the world. But actually, if you just learn the very, very basics, you'll probably find that you will use it throughout your career when it comes to anything to do with websites. So these are kind of the three main areas, and like Meredith hinted on before, there's no real urgency to do these paid courses anymore. There is so many free courses out there, and there's so many forums and communities that will help build your knowledge. The thing with digital marketing and the fact that it's gone online is we are all online, so we are all wanting to help each other out. There are so many forums that if you went in and said, I really don't understand this, can someone take a look at like this bit of coding or this, this page for me and help me out here, you will find that there'll be someone to help. So that's me in an absolute nutshell. So I will pass back to Meredith, and thank you very much for listening to me. Thanks.
Thank you, Claire. That was absolutely brilliant and spot on. I think your point about kind of knowing a bit of coding is really helpful, because it does come in handy, and it's quite easy to pick up just the basics. What would you say has been the most useful course that you've done to kind of upskill or keep current?
We actually use a platform called SEMrush, and we use it. It really helps with SEO. It basically does everything that you would do manually back in the day, and it does it all for you. And it'll produce reports and up-to-date data, and it'll tell you where your keywords are dropping off, or where kind of a website has a link missing, or it's broken, or your customers are coming from this forum, this website, this platform. And SEMrush has a whole training center, and it is so useful. It has everything from learning the basics to SEO through to more complicated technical analysis. And I would say, there is some courses that will take an hour, there's some that will take days to complete, but I would say head across to SEMrush and take a look at their free courses, because it has been very useful in really catapulting my skill level from what I knew basically to kind of what I know now.
Okay, brilliant. And for anyone watching now, we'll put a link to that free academy later in the slide deck, and we'll also email it out to everybody after this webinar. So thank you very much, Claire.
Yeah.
And now it's my pleasure to introduce Laurel Walsh, who is a specialist content creator. She's also all-round fantastic individual, and joined Charlie Charlie One earlier this year. So over to you, Laurel.
Thanks, Meredith. Hi, everybody. I'm Laurel, and my background is similar to Meredith's in that I studied journalism first. So right out of school, I got a Bachelor of Journalism degree, but I was always a really creative person and passionate about arts and crafts and designy things. So I decided I wanted to upskill in that area of my skill set as well. So I got a 1-year certification in graphic design also. Then I started my career at a Canadian newspaper and worked for some magazines too. But I am also into Highland dancing, as you can see from that one little picture there. And I found that working in digital marketing was a bit more flexible, and I could do my dancing gigs on the side. So I joined a digital marketing agency in Montreal in 2014. And that's where I was able to really combine my visual art skills and writing skills into making marketing content as a content creator. So I also, after that, did 5 years of freelance work while I traveled around with my dancing. And that's where I met my husband now, was at a military adjacent show that I was dancing in over here. I'm from Canada originally. So I've moved here and married into the military, which I didn't expect to do. But I feel very lucky that my career path was pretty well suited to this lifestyle, because as my colleagues have said, lots of moving, but when you have the types of skills that you can use remotely, which for me is content creation, it's been okay. so far. Moved 3 times and am able to use my skills for work, which is awesome. So now I make wordy things for CC1 and visual art stuff. So I made the poster that advertised this webinar and the social media cards and things that you've probably seen to get here. So next slide, please. So what is content creation? It's literally making any of the content that users would encounter on that buyer journey that Meredith mentioned earlier, delivering information in the formats mentioned here. So some content creators specialize in a handful of these, so you don't have to be great at all of them. I am not personally very good at video content creation, making and editing. I'm working to improve, but I find you don't need to be able to do everything. You might be asked to make some, but it's best to have as many as possible in your back pocket, all these forms of content. And you've probably actually made some of this content before in your life, especially the social media stuff. And you could have practice in the other things too, if you're just a creative type of person. So like event posters and infographics really aren't that different from birthday cards that you might hand make for friends, or invitations, or local community event posters, or your own Facebook posts. If you have that kind of interest in combining pictures and words in visually appealing ways, that's really, I think, the most important ingredient for this type of career. It's just a matter of getting the skills to apply that eye digitally. So for me, on a typical day, I might be tasked with making a blog post for a client. So I would take an interview, turn it into a nice written article, and then make the graphics that go along with it. So maybe a header image, some quote pictures, maybe an infographic with some stats that the expert mentioned in the article, and then also some visual things to go across social media when we promote that article. Yep, the next slide, please. So I did get a bit of formal academic training, but that was about 10 years ago, and I really don't think that you need it these days to be a great content creator. You can definitely get by with the types of courses that are available remotely, for sure. There are also loads of brilliant design tools that are free that you can learn to use with just your own personal laptop, keyboard, mouse, screen. So you don't need to invest in the kind of tools that I think often are shown when you look at what a graphic designer's workspace is. Like this woman here has a drawing tablet, and I have one of those as well, and I never ever use it. Also, some designers are really picky about screen size and resolution, but I think, again, these days, most screens that are on most people's computers that they have are perfectly fine to be able to make nice, like crisp, visually appealing content. So it's not necessary to invest in more tools than you probably already have. It's just a matter of putting time into mastering some of those tools. So you need to be a creative person, connection to the internet, which I think you'll have right now, and the right skills. And like Meredith said, we'll link you to some great courses later on in the webinar. Okay, next slide, please. Canva. Canva is one of the design tools that I use the most, and some of you may have used it before. So I will share my screen now and just give you guys a quick peek at what it's like to make a design on Canva if you haven't been there. Meredith, can you enable my screen sharing? If not, we can skip this bit.
No, that's okay. I will stop share and you should be able to do it now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it says it's disabled. That's okay. It was just going to be a quick peek So we can pop back to the slides.
Okay, no problems. 2 seconds.
But I encourage you all to check out Canva. It's a free resource, just canva.com, and they've got loads of templates. It's really intuitive, just dragging and dropping pictures and text and anything that you would really need to make a design that looks really clean and professional without putting a heck of a lot of work and time into it, honestly. All right, so these are just some quick practical tips if you are interested in doing some design work that I like to keep in mind to make the nicest work possible. So number one is using visual hierarchy, or keeping that in mind. You want people to read your graphics in a particular order, but you don't necessarily have to put the message top to bottom, left to right, like a block of text. You can play around with it if you use sizing and colors effectively. So of course, the most important things are the biggest or boldest or brightest that catch your eye first. And then the second most important things, second biggest, and so on and so on. I think that's also pretty intuitive as well, but important go-to to remember. Second is prioritizing consistency, especially for these types of professional clients. You really need to have a consistent look across a brand's website and social media, in the tone, the style of the pictures, the fonts. Having those all the same and consistent looks clean and boosts brand recognition for that client. So some tools to help you with that. Red Ketchup is handy because you can pull the exact color code from any digital picture or a screenshot or anything. If you're not sure exactly what color it is, you can take it into Red Ketchup, touch it anywhere, and it will tell you, and you can put that code into Canva or Photoshop, whatever you're using, and get that exact color. And then also DaFont, it just has a bunch of free fonts. And I find it handy that you can see which fonts are popular and what's kind of trendy, because that's something that tends to go in and out of style with time. Thirdly, less is more. This is one that I need to remember often. Blank space is not a bad thing. It's a nice rest for your eye. So for putting graphics and things together, try to be as concise as possible. You can trim a lot of words. You can turn and into a little ampersand. You can shrink long quotes with the ... Just try to really protect your blank space. Fourth, take advantage of templates. Like I mentioned, Canva has great ones. So you can really play around. You don't always have to start from a blank page. Even if what you end up with doesn't look anything like the template, I often find it helps as a starting place. And lastly, be sure to mess around a lot. Mistakes often lead to great designs, I think. And the more you mess around with these types of tools and programs, the better you get at using them. So that's all.
Cool. Thank you so much, Laurel, for going through that. And apologies, we can get your screen to share. It worked in the rehearsal yesterday, but
that's okay. Might be for the best.
So again, we'll put the links to Canva and those design tools that Laurel mentioned at the back end of this slide deck and in the email out. But Laurel, what would you say is your if people were going to go away from here and use one platform or try out one platform, which one would you recommend?
Ooh, I think for the design work specifically, these days Canva's got basically everything you need, and it has a lot of useful tutorials and video articles about how to design effectively for marketing specifically. So I might say that one, but also HubSpot, if I can add a second one, has great advice for specifically digital marketing, design tips and courses.
Brilliant. And I think Caroline's going to touch on HubSpot in a little bit. So thank you, Laurel, for that. And now we are going to go over to Rebecca Cartwright, who is a military wife. She's lived in Brunei, in Kenya, which is how I met her. And she can't be with us today because in typically military partner life, she's got to be in about 1,000,001 places because she also has 3 kids, including a set of twins. So she has sent us this video. So her specialism is social media advertising. So she have a listen to the video, and you can see if this is potentially something that you may want to explore as a career as well.
Hi, my name's Rebecca and I am a Facebook and Instagram ads manager. So I set up and run and manage ads on those platforms for clients. They can be small businesses, they can be large businesses, they can be businesses selling products, they can be service-based businesses. I don't specialise in one particular area because I like the variety. You can also do this on other social platforms like TikTok and LinkedIn, but I'm not so familiar with those. I'm just a specialist in Facebook and Instagram, and that's what I have trained in. So what is a paid social ad? It's basically those ads that you see as you're scrolling through your phone. You sometimes don't even realise that they are ads actually, but they will usually have a little thing that says sponsored on them. And they are trying to sell you something, whether it's a service or a product. They are usually products, or those tend to be the ones that you'll notice most. So, you know, Bowden or clothes companies or baby companies, holiday companies. So if you get any of those sort of things popping up on your phone or your desktop of companies that you don't follow, they will be ads. So yes, you see them on your phone, you can see them on your desktop, and you can see them in Instagram, in their Facebook Marketplace. You can sell pretty much anything through Facebook and Instagram. There are limitations around alcohol and tobacco and a few other industries like that. And you do have to be a little bit careful about the wording that you use in adverts. They are great because they can be highly targeted to a really niche audience. So if you sell pianos in France, for instance, and you wanted to just target people that wanted to teach their children piano in France, you'd be able to do that, or even more niche than that. But you can also go global. So if you're a small business and you've got a small shop, or you don't have a shop, but you want to target a much broader audience, these ads are a great way of getting in front of potentially a global audience. And large brands also use them as well. They're a great way of not only selling, but also just getting increased brand awareness. So getting your brand in front of large numbers of people so that you get brand recognition. COVID has obviously really accelerated this type of marketing, all digital marketing, in fact. But there's been a massive surge in marketing on social channels because so many people are on them. You know, pretty much everyone on the planet is on Facebook. So yeah, the world really is your oyster. And there's also a real range of how you can put your ads out there. There are lots of different creative approaches you can use. So how does it work? First of all, you have to have a Facebook page for your business. Even if you don't really use it, you just have to have one. And then you set up a Facebook advertising account and something called a business manager account. And these are all, they're set up by Facebook and they're completely free. And you then create audiences depending on the type of business you've got. So these could be based on interests that your audience have, you know, the types of people they are. You know, are they athletes? Are they CrossFit people? Are they mums? Are they teenagers? You know, there is so many different targeting options in Facebook. And another way that you can create audiences, and I think this is a really clever part of it, is you can use something called the Facebook Pixel, which is a little bit of code you install on your website to target people that have already engaged with your business. So they've already visited your website, they're on your mailing list, or they visited your social channels. And Facebook can find more people that look like those people. So that's a really great way of finding the right kind of people for your business. To set up your ads, you basically need some visuals. So you need, videos, static images, testimonials, all of that kind of thing that really sells your product. And you also need to be able to write some copy that's going to sell your product. So you need to have an ad strategy, and that's probably the hardest bit, and that's where being a fully trained ads manager will help. And you kind of need that training to know how to set your ads up. With the copy and the visuals, those could be outsourced to creative people, to copywriters, or to people that do visuals or videographers. You need to confirm your budget with the clients and how much do they want to spend on ads. And once your ads go live, they do need constant monitoring and refining. It really is a test and learn approach with ads. You might not hit the nail on the first try with the kind of creative you're using or the audience. So it's important to manage clients' expectations around that they need to plan some time and budget to test to see what works. But that kind of applies to most types of marketing. So who would this be suited for? It is quite analytical. There is quite a lot of number crunching, but you don't need to be a maths genius by any means. It's just someone that doesn't mind working with numbers a bit, because you are looking at kind of response rates, click-through rates. You're looking at the numbers to see what's working and what's not working, and the results are in the numbers. It does involve kind of being a bit creative, thinking about what customers want, what would interest people, who are the kinds of people that might respond, and choosing the right kind of images or commenting on images your clients might provide, and potentially being a good copywriter as well. Now, I am not a trained copywriter, but I can write copy, and I do write copy for lots of my clients. You need good client handling skills because you're going to be working for clients unless you're using this to market your own business. And it suits someone like lots of military spouses who kind of need something that is flexible around family life, around military life. I've done this even while living abroad. So it's worked really well for me around military life. And you do need to be able to, if you're working for yourself, you are marketing yourself. So you need to be able to put yourself out there to sell yourself and find your clients. And that can be hard work. But once you get going with the business, that usually becomes less and less of what you're doing, hopefully. So my journey to become an ads manager started when I first trained as a social media manager, so organic social media. So that's not paid, that's just, the free social pages that you see that lots of businesses have. And I trained with a company called Digital Mums, learning how to manage companies' organic social media. And I went into that because just like running ads, it's really flexible. You can completely do it from home, 100%. And it works really well around family commitments, and if you move house, it's something you can take with you. It's completely portable. I then moved kind of more into ads, so it's kind of niching within social media, really because I was looking for new challenges and because I quite like the hard numbers side of ads. So I did another course. It was a 3-month-long course, a really amazing course run by sort of one of the best Facebook gurus in the country. And I do think you need to be trained in this to do it. So I would definitely advise someone doing a course in it. And then I kind of began to build up my business, and I started by doing free work for people in return for testimonials. I worked for very low rates, just to kind of get my foot on the ladder and get some reviews and get some experience. I also joined an agency that was about 1.5 years ago, just to give me another source of client work, and also because I like working as part of a team. So I have my own clients that I've kind of found myself, but then I'm also part of an agency. I hope that you have found that useful, and it's given you some food for thought as to whether this might be something that might interest you.
Brilliant. So so that was Rebecca Cartwright there, and if you've got any questions for her at all, please feel free to drop them in the chat and I'll get them to her, and if you leave your email address, we'll get them back to you. So if it's specifically about paid social media advertising, then just let us know and we'll get those questions across to her. So next up is Caroline Stewart, who is going to if I come back into this, going to talk to you about the kind of broader digital marketing picture, so collaborative working, CRMs and email marketing. So what Caroline is going to do is basically bring it all together and give you an idea of how it can all work. So over to you, Caroline.
Thanks, Meredith. The first slide is just a little bit about me. I graduated with a degree in French and German, and then after a few years decided I wanted to get into marketing, so I did a CIM marketing diploma. I was working in the tech world. I live in Reading, so like the Silicon Valley of the UK. So if you work here, you tend to work in, if you live here, you tend to work in tech. So I've got about 15 years of marketing experience of working in tech, and I've been freelance for the last 7 years after the birth of my second child. Just so that it fitted in with my lifestyle. My husband, who also works in tech, had to travel a lot, so it meant that I was more flexible if I could do pickups and drop-offs with the children. I upskilled during the pandemic. I think I felt like I was a bit behind and there were lots of younger people coming through, so I did a Shaw Academy course in digital marketing and also some of the HubSpot qualifications. I'm an account manager at CC1. I'm not a military wife. I guess that is what makes me a little bit different to everyone who's presented so far. So I tend to manage the accounts at CC1 that aren't military focused or defense focused. So what am I going to talk about today? Next slide, please, Meredith. I'm going to talk about setting your objectives for your marketing plan and how you tie those into your corporate objectives. I'm going to talk about the marketing stack, so pulling in what Rebecca, Laurel, Claire all spoke about, and how you build your marketing stack to do everything you need it to do, with your CRM being at the hub of that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the planning, mainly planning out your content and events, etc. How you execute this, and I guess this is relevant for if you were working in a team or if you are like Rebecca just described and you're working on your own. And then that leads on to the who. You can't do all of this yourself. So who are you going to work with? Who are you going to collaborate with? So I'm going to go into these in a bit more detail. So if we start on the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about setting your objectives. So how does your marketing plan fit in with what you want to achieve at a corporate level? So this could be if you are working in an organization within a marketing team, or if you're freelance setting this up for one of your clients, what do they want to achieve? And then what marketing objectives will you set to help you achieve them? This is a screenshot from a project management tool called Monday that we use with one of our clients. And this is an overview of their social media. So they just use LinkedIn and Twitter. So we sit down at the start of every month, we decide what the objective is, what the target is, what we want to achieve. And then at the end of the month, we go back and we fill in all these figures and we see how well we've done. So this is why I say here at the start of the period, whatever that is, the week, the month, the year, at the quarter, set your objectives at the start of that time. And then at the end of that time, go back and see what you've achieved. So moving on to the next slide, we're going to look at the types of tools that you can put in place to help you with this. So I've already discussed the project management tool. In the red box at the top, the dark red box, you can see there Zoho, Asana, Trello. We use Trello internally within CC1. We use Monday with other clients like I've just described. It can be a bit of a minefield, as you see here. There are lots of tools out there. They all do different things. I think the key is to work out what you need and then trial some, see what is the right thing for you. I guess if you're working within a team, within an organization, they might already have tools, and there might be the start of that marketing stack already. But I would say the key things are a good project management tool that you can collaborate on, the CRM being at the hub of your organization, and I'll go on to explain a little bit more about that. And then email automation, email marketing, and having all of this work together. So on the next slide, I've taken a couple of screenshots from our HubSpot that we use internally within CC1. So here you can see the contacts. So this is our CRM database. At the bottom of that grey box, you can see lists. So we can pull lists and we can segment the database there. And it goes back to what Meredith was saying about it being, the marketing being data driven. And then we can use HubSpot to create emails. So whether that's people hitting on our website, we would collect that information. They might be in one group, or if we went to an event, let's say, and we had a list of people, we might put them into another bucket and send a different email out to them. We don't just use HubSpot, we use it internally within Charlie 1, but my background is using Eloqua, Marketo, Salesforce.com. We use MailChimp with some clients. So between the team, we have quite a lot of experience with a lot of different tools that tend to be used on the market. On the next slide, I've taken a couple of screenshots just to show you how collaborative HubSpot can be. So the top slide, which talks about the Girl Guiding media training, is the front page of the Charlie 1 website. That is what you would see if you went into the blog. And then the bottom right image is what you would see in HubSpot. And the reason that I'm showing this is you can see how collaborative it can be. So you put your blog up, you've got this link that you can use, and then you can see these two options at the bottom, start driving traffic. So you can create your social post there and you can create your ad campaign. And then you can start to see how this is all collaborative and how HubSpot is a really central part of that marketing stack that I just described. You also have a nice calendar in there for scheduling social posts, but you don't have to use HubSpot. And I'm just going to go on the next slide to show you how you can plan and use different tools for planning out your content. So if you think of the team that have just spoken, you think about Laurel's presentation and how she's working on content. There might already be various pieces of content. I've just put some examples here. Events that might have taken place, webinars, whether they're upcoming webinars or on demand. You might have blogs, downloadable content pieces. You know, when I worked in the tech world, we had data sheets which detailed what the technology did. So the first thing, whether you are freelance or whether you're working in a team, is to brainstorm your content. This is a test board that I set up in the CC1 Trello instance. And just examples, you can color code it, but you could just set up cards for all the things that you have coming up. And then as you populate it and as you plan, you can put this into a calendar view. So on the next slide, I've got an example of that. So for example, we run this webinar today and we have a recording and we want to send it out on demand. So we might put it on the Charlie Charlie One website, and then I can see in the calendar for May that there is a gap on May the 16th and May the 19th. So that might be a good time to send it out. Put the recording onto the website, schedule some social media posts. And the reason I show this is because with a few clients, we have marketing teams that work in different countries. They're on a different time zone. You met Louise earlier, who's in our Australia team. So this is why we use the project management tool Trello, so that we're dynamic and collaborative. When Laurel spoke about Canva, we all collaborated on this presentation today and just slotted our slides in. So with just going back to the marketing stack, it's really important that when you select those tools that they are dynamic, they are collaborative, and that you can sync up with your team. And this example, obviously, of the calendar from Trello is a good example of how you can schedule things out, but you've also got this available to you in other project management tools and also in HubSpot. So moving on to the next slide. I put this here for, I guess, thinking about who within your team is responsible. And if you're on your own, who can you reach out to help? You can't do everything yourself. So for example, if you look at the diagram here, Claire spoke about how she's good at the analytics and the data. Laurel at Charlie Charlie One does the content. Meredith is very strong in the PR and comms. I've done the HubSpot courses and work a lot on the websites that are built within HubSpot. So just there, you've got 4 people who are skilled in various different aspects of marketing. So if you are freelance, think about who you can collaborate with, but also within your team, think about who is responsible for what. And use the tools to make people accountable. It's how we use Trello internally. We set each other tasks probably every day. Can you do this? Can you help me out with that? So it's a good way to collaborate as a team. So on the last slide, I'm just going to sum up what I've spoken about today before I hand back to Meredith. So think about your objectives and how you align those with your corporate objectives. Think about the tools you might use for your marketing stack. There's a load out there and you can trial them all, test them, see what works for you. Brainstorm your content, make sure you've got relevant pieces, keep it interesting, and there's a variety of content. And where can you fill the gaps? Where do you need other pieces to expand the content pieces that you already have? Then think about the execution. Choose a good project management tool to help you collaborate with your team. And then finally, if you are a freelancer or if you are in a team, just identify the gaps and see who could help you execute on your plan.
Cool.
But thanks for listening.
Thanks, Caroline. That was really helpful. And I think your point about kind of identifying the gaps is really important, because that's also, I guess, an opportunity for people who are looking to get into careers, is that if you identify a business that, you know, has a CMO or has someone doing SEO but doesn't have someone doing social media, then that's where you can slot in. So once you know what your skill set is, you know, sell yourself to companies that have that gap and fill it, or that team that's missing that person. Caroline, you mentioned you upskilled during the pandemic. What did you find was the best resource, or what did you get the most value out of when you were doing that?
I'd say for me, the HubSpot courses were super helpful, and I find their blogs really useful as well. I also quite recently did some of the LinkedIn courses. So I think the main point is, you know, you never stop learning. There's always something new that you can learn. And I think that's what everyone has said today. So yeah, I would highlight that as the best one.
Okay, I think that's brilliant. And that kind of takes us on to the next section of the webinar, which is training and pathways. So basically, the next few slides, we're just going to take you through some of the courses that we've either done or dipped our toes in, which we would recommend. As we've kind of I think all of us have said, you know, you really don't have to pay for courses. You know, there's some amazing digital marketing paid courses out there that are targeting you and want you to spend your money, but you really, really don't have to anymore. So the first one that we would recommend looking at is SEMrush. So this is an absolutely brilliant platform to access a plethora of free data, SEO, PPC, keyword courses. If you know you've been watching this and you've been leaning towards the more analytical side, the more back-end side, then these are the courses to have a look at. They are outstanding, and they've also got a platform that you can practice on. So they are absolutely brilliant. All of the links through to these courses will be in the PDF that we'll email around after this webinar as well. So you'll be able to go through this presentation, just click on the images and it will be hyperlinked. So this is an absolutely fantastic platform for that really understanding data, which I would recommend everyone has a look at it, because above all, when someone is paying you to deliver a service, they want to know return on investment. You know, great content, beautiful content, click-throughs are great, but if they're not converting, if you're not getting the message to the person that's going to buy, then none of it matters, and you won't get your contracts renewed. But if you can prove through data and through reporting that your efforts, your collaboration, your work, all the content is working together to drive sales, then you'll keep your job, basically. I think that's quite a blunt way of putting it, but that's what it comes down to. It does come down to the bottom line with digital marketing. So the next one, and Laurel touched on this, is the design courses. So you know, a few years ago, I probably would have said Adobe ID, all of their creative solutions and suite, was the best place to go if you wanted to kind of use design platforms. But in the last 2 years, and you may have seen this in the tech news and business news, Canva has grown exponentially. They are a fantastically disruptive company. They're very innovative. And also it's priced right. So the free Canva design course is excellent. And once you start building up your portfolio and you have a bit of money to reinvest in yourself or your business, or you start working with a team and they haven't got Canva subscription, then taking out a pro license unlocks loads of special add-ons, and it's really not that expensive. Adobe charges a huge amount for their licensing, but Canva, I think it's certainly under £50 a month for a pro license, so it's well worth having a look at. That said, I don't want to trash Adobe completely, because they do have some really good how-to videos, and the design elements and the concepts apply across the board. So definitely have a look at some of these platforms, but as everyone said, Canva is probably the most intuitive and free option to start with. And I think keeping an eye on that company, it will just keep going from strength to strength, because it's had some significant funding in the tech and development side of that business. So social media courses, Rebecca in her video mentioned digital mums, which a few years ago, a huge amount of military wives were taking and were doing. And it is a good course, but you do have to pay for it. And the other downside of paid for courses is that they aren't updated as frequently as the free courses that are tied to platforms. So these are 3 examples of places where you can access free courses. And you know they're good quality because they're actually from the source platform. So for example, Facebook on the left of the screen, they run some pretty damn good courses which are certified, which have exams. So depending on how much you want to throw yourself into it, if you just want to kind of dabble in social media, potentially working for small businesses, for friends, just to get some experience, then they have some more entry-level courses. But if you get to the stage where you want to really go after those higher value clients or charge more for your services, then you can do some of the higher level courses that they offer. And again, they are free. LinkedIn as well, they do some fantastic marketing courses, both at the entry level and at the higher level. They can take anything from a couple of hours to days. So have a look at that again on this slide. When you get it on the email, you'll be able to click through. And then over here, I've put Instagram. So this isn't an Instagram course, this is a HubSpot course. But it is a really good Instagram course because the Instagram owned courses are quite hard to find, and that's because it's owned by Meta. So you could probably find some courses on the Facebook platform, but I've used this one and I think it's really good, so I've put that in. I've also put TikTok up in the corner, and the reason why I've done that is because for the first time this year, we've started providing TikTok services to clients. So that's producing content specifically for their TikTok channels. And for that client, it's because they've got a younger demographic that they need to start engaging with. And because that younger generation, looking at the data again, everything we do is data driven, that younger generation isn't on Facebook, they're not on LinkedIn, and they're dwindling on Instagram, but they are on TikTok. And so if you're looking to the future, and if you want to try and get ahead of the game, I would say look at training in TikTok. And you could even specialize in TikTok on its own as a platform and look at companies that have a young demographic that needs support in targeting that platform. So the last one, and I think we've mentioned this quite a lot, and it is because we use it ourselves. Salesforce is the equivalent of HubSpot, but Salesforce is very expensive as a platform. So a lot of startups use HubSpot, and we've used it quite a lot, and their academy is exceptional. So it has a course for absolutely every element of digital marketing. So those career pathways that popped up on one of the early screens, if you picked one of those, it would have a course for it. Again, it's free, and you get certifications which you can then use on your CV, your cover letter, your LinkedIn. So definitely have a look at this, and again, it's hyperlinked. Okay, so back over to you, Louise, for question and answers time.
Brilliant. Thank you, Meredith. And thank you, ladies. You all spoke wonderfully, and it was very, very informative. We do have some questions, and we'll start off with the first one. What's the first step to getting a job? So I don't know who wants to answer that first.
I think we should throw that at Laurel, because you were the most recent to join us. Yeah,
it's true. I would say, of course, a CV. And talking about Canva so much, there are actually really great CV templates on there that you can use to kind of spruce up what you've got already. Really tailoring it to things that we want. I'm going to throw it back to you, Meredith, because you were the one who did the hiring.
Well, I think, when you're looking at, so something that James Murphy at TechVets always says, he says he doesn't care about the CVs. And actually, a lot of the younger companies that we work with, their CEOs are very dynamic. And on multiple occasions, they've said, I just don't care about the CV. I don't care about the academics. It's what they're looking for is potentially the covering letter, but really attitude. And, you know, I would say with you, Laurel, that there are 2 CVs. I've had quite a few CVs that have come across my desk, and yours stood out because, you know, well, firstly, your first class honours in journalism, you know, those aren't easy to get, but also you just came across with such passion and drive, and it just stuck in my brain. And I think those covering letters, you know, whatever job you're applying for, just be yourself, because, you know, you've got to, it's really about working together. We're a tight team and we collaborate every day, and you have to be able to get on. So I think if you're, you know, from my position, hiring someone, it's got to be on personality and attitude.
Brilliant. Thanks, Meredith. We have another question. Can you recommend the best place to find these digital marketing roles? I think I'll throw this one to Caroline, if you want.
So I know that we work with some organisations in the UK, such as Recruit for Spouses. Obviously, Tech Vets is one of our clients, but I think through a lot of the forums that you would look for jobs on, also LinkedIn is a good example. I know we have advertised for people on through LinkedIn. There are many ways that they're the ones that sort of come to mind first of all. Also the RFEA, which is the Forces Employment Charity, who we work quite closely with as well. They would be the top ones for probably the audience today.
I think that's the last one. It's interesting you've said that, because that's you know, very recently they used to be just about helping service leavers and veterans into employment, but in the last month or so they've started providing employment support for spouses and dependents, and that's across the board. And I think if people are watching now, then definitely register with the RFEA, their families program, because they have got some really interesting courses coming up, all free through Google. I think there is another Microsoft course coming up, and there's some data analytics courses that spouses and partners will be able to join. So definitely look out for them, and they'll be hyperlinked at the end.
Amazing. We do have a comment. It's not a question, but I'll just read out Terry's comment. RFEA are amazing. I have an action plan, and the advisor is a military spouse too. Thank you for your comment, Terry. The next question is, how would you go about getting your first client? Maybe Claire, would you like to answer this one?
I know through speaking to Meredith, and also when you talk to people about your job, it's actually amazing how easily you can gain clients through word of mouth. Usually when people find out what you do for a living, there is so many people out, well, actually, like, yeah, I have this business, but I'm trying to actually convert it into an online business now. And it's kind of like, oh, well, yeah, we do have the tools in the company to be able to help you with that. And I guess it is kind of, it is through colleagues and work friends. You'll find like CEOs and things, they are also friends with other CEOs, and you kind of, if you're good and you know what you're doing, and you do get results, you'll find that a CEO will probably recommend you to another CEO. And I guess it is, it's just always having that professional you know, I mean, the persona about you. It's constantly talking about your job and your role, and yeah, you'll never know who you'll meet or who you'll sit next to at a table or a bus or a train. And yeah, it's just basically, it's just always being available and open about what you do for a job. Meredith is probably able to answer this so much better than I can. So yeah, so Meredith is the main contract killer. So
no, I'm just thinking about you getting on a bus and like talking to everyone about.
Oh God, I do know that. I just literally
brilliant.
Somebody who I sit next to. Yeah, I talk to everyone. So yeah.
No, but I think you're right. I think you know, talking to people about what we do is really important. And when you're starting off, you know, it's really scary, and you know, you feel a bit of an imposter because you've done these courses and you know, you haven't really been able to put them into practice. You've never been able to get any money for what you do. And a bit like what Rebecca said in her video, you know, you do have to start off small. You know, if you've got a family member who runs a business or a family friend who runs a business, just helping them out. Or if, you know, in your schools, if you know, the amount of teachers or teachers' partners that run cake businesses on the side or those kind of things, you know, just say, hey, do you need a bit of help? Can I design a flyer for you? Or even, you know, schools, you know, our state schools have no budgets. So just offering a bit of support there for like flyer design, for, you know, summer fates and things like that. And then, you know, make sure your name is on the bottom of it so people know who you are, who to ask for, and just keep plugging away and you'll get there.
Thanks, Meredith and Claire. This question's actually quite good for you, Claire, so I'm going to get you to answer this one as well. How do you report back to clients?
I tend to do a lot of email. I know that speaking to them face to face is very important, and we do, where we can, try to arrange at least a monthly call via Zoom with them. Best is probably to speak to on the telephone or over Zoom on a kind of a weekly basis, or at least check in with them. I tend to email my clients a monthly report from SEM Rush, and it breaks down kind of the figures, and I tend to put into there what I've been doing, what blogs I've written, how much attention I've paid to Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, and just kind of forums I've visited and things like that. So they've got it all in one report, and then I tend to give them a Zoom call afterwards just to discuss the report and to discuss any ideas that I've came up with, or any ideas that they want to share with me that they want to direct me down. It's basically just to keep communicating with them. No one likes it when you disappear off the face of the earth, especially when it's a client. They want to know that you're working for the money that they're paying you to, and it's just a simple case of keeping them in the loop and keeping them up to date with what you're doing. So yeah, so all the time is the answer.
Brilliant. I think that's probably all we've got time for, isn't it, Louise, unless there are any other questions that have popped in.
No, I think we're done now. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. But I have just got an update on, we talked about kind of, we mentioned Tech Vets, which is an RFEA program. So a quick update from them. So they're going to be going live with full support for partners and spouses towards the end of this month. So partners and dependents can get access to absolutely all of their digital and IT training. That includes the Google Digital Marketing e-commerce certification. But they've got a huge amount of other courses on offer from big brands like Pegasystems, like Amazon, like the SANS Institute. So if you're not registered with the RFEA Families Programme, then definitely get in there and start having a look around at what's on offer. So I'm just going to summarize. So we've mentioned these names, and the reason we've mentioned these names is that all three of these organizations have really been quite seminal in helping build our team in the last few years. And also, I think I can speak on all of our behalves when we say, like, the work that people like Helen Kendrick have put into Recruit for Spouses. You know, she's been doing that for 10 years, what she's done has really changed the shape of getting spouses and partners into work and getting them valued and decent careers that they can move with and that they can develop with. And RFEA and Tech Vets definitely watch those spaces, because there's a huge amount of amazing opportunities coming out of these organisations for spouses and partners. And for anyone watching, if you'd like to get in touch with any of us, you can find us on the Charlie Charlie One LinkedIn page. Just drop us a message and we will come back to you. So from me to the team, this so for all of you watching, this is the first webinar that we have done as a team, and I'm so proud of us. We did it. So huge thank you to everyone. I know a huge amount of hard work has gone into this, and I hope that for people watching that we have given you some ideas, hopefully some inspiration, and just some pathways that you don't need to live in a magnolia box and join a pyramid marketing scheme, or take a job that you know, you've got an education that you can do more. If you want to do more, there is options for you, and so please pick our brains, come to us, or go to RFEA, recruit spouses. Just find something that you know, makes you want to get out of bed on a Monday and enjoy life, enjoy being married to the military in whatever form that is. So thank you very much for joining us. This recording will be available shortly, and we'll also email it out to everybody who has registered. So enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you very much.